Sometimes in our lives, we have to be selfish in order to be selfless. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, earlier today, I was having a conversation with an old friend in my old professional circles, and we were kind of catching up on how things have been over the past few years since we've last spoke. And she was sharing with me how so much has changed because she had to make some decisions in her life that were very hard and challenging. However, she was sharing with me that because she made those difficult decisions, she is leading a more fulfilling life. She feels more like herself now, and she feels like she's becoming a happier person. And I applauded her because sometimes in all of our lives, we're faced with these kind of decisions where we are so used to and accustomed to catering towards others in our lives and or caring for others in our lives. And that can be for our children, that can be for our friendships, our deep friendships, that could be for our business relationships where it really depends on a tight-knit friendship or relationship in order for the business to function. And that ultimately, really in many or most cases, also pertains to our marriages, right? Whether it's a husband, wife, spouse, partner, what have you. And most of us are not selfish by nature. Also because society has really deemed the word selfish a dirty word. Nobody wants to be selfish. Nobody wants to be viewed as selfish. Nobody wants to be considered that type of person because it has such a bad connotation to it. But there are many instances in our lives when we really need to be selfish instead of, or rather, we need to be selfish to be selfless. And so, after talking with her, it really made me think about something that I've talked about in the past is really self-care and self-love. Because if we need to care for others in our lives, if we are depended on by others in our lives, and that maybe is not only financially, but as a best friend, a support system, a loving partner or spouse, and they're depending on us emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically sometimes, or spiritually. If somebody else is depending on us, well, if we're not selfish first, and we're not making the decisions in our lives that will benefit us first to keep us whole, so that way we can then turn and properly take care of those that are depending on us, well, when you think about it that way, we're really not caring about those that we are caring for or that depend on us. Because if we completely neglect ourselves, well, then we need to understand and realize that if we're running ourselves ragged with too much work or doing unnecessary things because we feel it's for someone else, but yet we're completely draining ourselves to empty at the end of every day, well, then what good are we when we come home to our spouses that really want, whether they say it or not, they want and or need our love, our attention, our emotion, and vice versa with our children. If we're completely running ourselves on empty, well, then we really have nothing else to give. And so many people in today's society make you feel or want you to feel in such a way that you have to be the super mom or the super dad or the super husband or the super wife or super spouse or whatever, because there is some sort of, feeling towards that. However, being a super person means developing a super relationship with yourself, right? If we don't take care of ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, well, then how can we take care of others? And so I wanted to ask you, or I wanted to have you ask yourself a question today. If you haven't already, in what areas of your life today, or what point of your day, rather, could you take 5 minutes and inject a little bit of self love in your arm, right? In what areas could you maybe break away for 5 minutes and watch that guilty home cooking show that you love to watch so much, or listen to a favorite podcast, or a book, or some music that you like to do, or go for a 5 minute walk around a park so you can get fresh air and be with nature for a few minutes. Whatever it is, in what areas of your life today can you take 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes and just really just dote on yourself? Really just give some self love, fill yourself up with some self energy. And the key to this is doing something that is going to make you smile, right? Because when we smile, like from within, that means we're being filled with positive energy, positive endorphins. And maybe we're only able to make ourselves smile for 5 minutes, right? But the wonderful thing about that is that is going to have lasting effects on those that we may have to come home to and transfer that smile to, or transfer that energy to. Because when we're feeling good in here, it emanates out here. And when we have a good vibe emanating out here, well, then people enjoy being around us. And this isn't only pertaining to your workspace or your co-workers or your boss or your employees or what have you. This is also pertaining to your home. When you walk in your front door, are you in a mood to where like, oh, don't talk to dad, he's got that look on his face, give him a while. Or don't talk to mom, right? Or whatever it is. Or Susie needs to go to her room and be alone. No, how about walking through the door where you just before took 5 or 10 minutes to just inject some self-love, and when you come home, now people are happy to see you. Your family is happy to see you. And maybe, just maybe, they're like, wow, what happened to you today? Because maybe you've become in this routine or this rut to where you are coming home and it's kind of known that don't talk to them for a while until they decide that they want to talk to you. And why do I know that? Because I used to be that person, so I can speak from personal experience. So where can you inject a little bit of self-love in your day? And the great thing about this is that if you really search and you find this little pocket of time, maybe it's leaving 10 minutes earlier to a regular daily routine where you pick up the kids, just so that way you can divert and go somewhere and have your self time, right? Whatever it is, you know what your schedule is. You know where you can steal away 5 or 10 minutes and give yourself some self-love. And again, the prerequisite to this, or the requirements rather of this, is that you can only do it and give self-love if it's going to make you happy, if it's going to make you feel good, if it's going to make you smile. And if you can carve something out of your day to day, 5 or 10 minutes, well, the chances are you're going to be able to do the same thing tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. And what happens is that the more you do this and you get in the habit, okay, of just a little bit of self-love, a little bit of pouring into yourself every single day, just 5 or 10 minutes, well, that begins to build up. It starts to have a reciprocal effect. And then maybe 5 minutes today only gave you 30 minutes of good quality energy that you could pour into someone else. But when you also do 5 minutes tomorrow and 5 minutes the next day, well, that begins to build up. You begin to build up your self-love bank, we'll call it. And that begins to really fill up to where you are now, after you've done this for a while, and I am literally speaking from self-experience. I do this, or I started doing this 3 years ago, and now it's just a normal routine. My self-love is now 2 hours in the morning, right? And I'm lucky I'm able to cut that out. I realize that not many people can do that. But what happens is that even if it's just 10 minutes every morning, well, you pretty much find yourself just, people are just like, wow, you've changed. Like, man, you're just so much better to, you know what, it's greater to have conversations with you. And you'll just kind of find, maybe some people will come out and tell you, and maybe some people won't. But you'll just kind of begin to see and understand that, hey, you know what, I think people are kind of hovering around me. They're enjoying being around me a little more. And that's really just because you're enjoying being around yourself more. And so I wanted to share this with you all. I hope you got some value from this. And again, please just find 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes is probably the accumulation of the stoplights that you're going to hit on the way to wherever it is that you're going. So you can definitely do that. Take 5 minutes today and try and do the same thing tomorrow. And give yourself a little self-love, because you have to be selfish before you can be selfless. All right, talk to you later.